Hey, how's it, hey?
How's it? Yeah. Good.
Thanks.
How you doing? How are you?
Can't complain.
Good, good. How's things? All set up? All set up?
Yeah, no, most of the guys cancelled. When I woke up and saw the weather, they're like, sorry, we're going fishing. Because it was a nice day.
The weather was good, but yeah.
So I mean, we'll still do it.
No, do it. Yeah.
Graham said he would help, and we're still waiting for Graham to help.
Okay.
The problem is our job and how the guy is transferred. The only problem I want to bring is just so you get all the other parts, then you got
Where are they fishing for that? And then when does come in and it's not coming.
That's what I don't know. That's what I'm making just this case.
It's showing us later.
Yeah.
It's showing us now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Peaking at 11 o'clock.
So, how many cases is that? 3 o'clock? Should be at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock is 12 knots.
12 knots, that's about 20 odd cases. You can get it away, that's I'm tired of catching pork and eating that. I've never seen it fish. But I'll have to by your guys.
I'm good.
Already, how's it off me by your?
I weet niet of die recht is. See, I think
En het weer nog geen zout op nu. Anyway, let me get going. I'll speak to you later. Thanks. Cheers, thanks for your
Hi guys, today we're just doing a little intro on the basics of non-edible fishing in KZN in summer months. So it's a very basic little video. This is aimed at the guys that are starting to fish, youngsters out there. It's not aimed at the professional angler. It's literally for the guys starting to fish, to show you guys our little setups and then the different types of traces, and I'll do a few basic baits when it comes to non-edible fishing KZN. So let's start off with a tackle. We normally fish with 14 to 16 foot rods on the coffee grinder setups we are on eds. KZN is a bit different to other provinces as casting distance is very, very critical. So the way we fish on eds over the last few years have changed a bit. We are fishing with lighter gear, smaller reels, thinner braid, and then targeting the non-edible species like brown skates, honeycombs, sandies, and even shark species. So we've scaled down a lot, and the reason we've scaled down is in order to get the distance you require to get to the fish. Our fish stocks, I wouldn't say the fish stocks are less, but we're finding it harder and harder to find the fish, so you have to adapt. And so saying in KZN we have now moved to lighter gear, and I was going to say my stock standard summer fishing gear in KZN at the moment is a 6,500 size reel with a 14 foot 6 3 to 5 ounce rod. So it's quite light. But then I always carry my heavier gear with me. The day when the bigger fish moving, I will use a 5 or 6 to 8 ounce type of rod with a 7.5, 8.5 size slammer, which I love fishing with, or authority, and that'll be spooled with 60 or max 80 pound. Whereas on my 6.5, my smaller reel, will be fishing anything from 20 pound to 40 pound braid. So just the two sort of rigs you've got. You have your lighter non-edible rig and your heavier non-edible rig. You don't need much more. In general, that works for us. Alright, then on the traces, I always try and keep my fishing as simple as possible. I try not to complicate things for myself. So I've literally got 4 non-edible traces I use almost everywhere in South Africa for casting baits. So I'll start off with my big shark trace. This is something I would use in the sardine run time, or if I'm targeting blackfin sharks, throwing big baits mainly for sharks. So it's a full metal jacket trace, big decent circle hook, 10 hook upwards, 250 pounds carbon or nylon coated steel. Got a little stopper on the trace. So it's a limited slide trace. It's all still there. It's about 600 up to the stopper, a little bead with a swivel. My sink is attached to the swivel and goes down onto the dingle where we're going to have our bait, and then up to the swivel which connects to our leader. So that is my heavy trace for non-edibles, and basically the rest of my traces are similar, but they're just scaling down in thickness and in weight. So from there I would go to a tennis racket string trace if I'm not targeting sharks and I'm targeting flatfish. So on this tennis racket string, it's quite thick, it's 1.2 mil, but it's soft, pliable, and it's got a nice color. It's sort of sandy color, so it camouflages very well in the ocean. So on this limited slide trace, or full limited slide trace, I did exactly the same with my full metal jacket. It's just not steel. And then on this specific trace, which is nice about it, I can fish from a 5 hook up to a 10 hook. So if I'm targeting little browns, I'll use this, and then if a big diamonds and big sandies come in, it's the same trace just with a 10 hook. So a lot of guys are fishing this way in KZN at the moment. Although this tennis racket string is thick, it doesn't seem to put the fish off. I think it's camouflaged on the sand, so it really works well. So that's my second one. My third trace, again exactly the same setup, just instead of tennis racket string, I'm going to fluorocarbon. So this trace is a trace I use when the fish are very difficult, battling to bite, water is clean, conditions are just tough and you can't get a bite. I scale down completely. I go to as thin as 070 on the fluorocarbon, finesse angling, trying to hide as much as possible, and I'll go fluorocarbon. Once again, exactly the same setup, little stopper, with my swivel going there to my sinker, just scaling down on everything. And then my last non-edible trace I use is my little grey shark trace, the little sharks and greys that we catch here at night. So normally like a 5-6 size hook. I fish quite light here, 60 to 80 pound carbon or coated steel onto a piece of nylon. This is a very light trace, but this is specific for the grey sharks. I always keep it in my box, so if we're fishing and the conditions are tough and you got to catch little grey sharks, that's the little trace I use. Nice and light, and you don't battle to catch it. So that's literally my only non-edible traces. There's one more trace I would use, and that's a sliding trace, but I'm talking about casting traces today, so we're not even going to touch the sliding traces today. I don't think you need any more. The professional guys will get a bit more finessey, they'll go softer steel, 7 strands. Now Ben's going to show us a few of his traces, and he likes fishing with that, but he's in the professional scene, he's fishing competitive, and he needs a little edge. So for them, they might change and tweak a few things, but for me, this does a job, and I'm happy to fish like this. Good, thank you. So I'm going to just show you guys 2 basic baits, and I said that once again, this video is basic, guys, so please, the pros out there, please don't comment and say you could have done this and this. I'm trying to teach guys that are new to the sport how to do it easily, so I'm not going to complicate things. Keep it as simple as possible. As I say, or before we start talking about making the bait itself, for all the youngsters and the new anglers out there, especially in a province like KZN, quality of bait is key. Don't go to the beach with crap bait and expect to catch a fish. There's other areas in South Africa you can get away with all the bait where the fish are different. In the Eastern Cape, I'd say Transkei. Those fish are different to the KZN. I think the KZN fish are clever. They've learned over the years. There's too many good anglers here, and you go to the beach with crappy bait, you're going to battle get a bite. Especially if there's an angler around the corner from you using fresh bait, he's going to catch all the fish. So make sure you go to your tackle store and ask them for the best quality bait they've got. If you went to the beach today and you took 6 mackerel with you, you used 3 or 4, and the 2 or 3 that's left are soft, you might as well throw them away. I don't like taking them home and putting them back in the freezer, because then the next time you go fishing, you take that same old bait and you're restarting on the back foot. So I know it sounds like a bit of a waste, but when that bait's defrosted and you're done with the fishing for the day, throw it in the ocean and feed the fish with it, because that's basically done. Fresh bait is key, and good quality bait. Alright, so we're going to start off with mackerel baits. I'd say the 3 main baits we use in KZN for summer fishing when we come to meaty baits is red eye, mackerel and bonito. If you've got those 3, you will get a fish in the summer. And certain times of the year, early season, we often find that the fish will start feeding on the red eye. August, September, October, November, December, it starts changing. They head towards the mackerel, and at that same time we always like to add a bit of bonnie to our bait in late summer, especially for the bigger non-heads. They just seem that bonnie just got a very strong smell and does attract the fish easier. But it varies every year. If you do enough fishing or speak to a local fisherman, they'll tell you currently the red eye is working, or currently the mackerel is working, or still with the eyes on the beach, look at the guys catching fish, see what they're using. But those are the 3 main baits that I would say for non-heads. So red eye, mackerel and bonito. So I'm going to make a simple mackerel bait. With our circle hooks that we use, we don't like to make the bait on the hook itself. And the main reason for that is actually a very simple reason. The way the circle hook's designed, if you fill this with bait and you get a bite and it's full of bait, that circle hook's not going to do its job and slide into the corner of the mouth of the fish. It needs to be exposed. So you want this hook as exposed as possible when you're making a bait for a non-head. So the way we do is we use a little dingle dangle, we call it. There's 2 types. I'll show you guys now. Literally clip that onto the bait, build your bait around this dingle dangle. The sinker, after you've done the bait, the sinker clips on there, and you've got a nice aerodynamic piece of bait and sinker flying through the air, so you get maximum distance. So with the bait being on the hook like this, it's nice and exposed, and when the fish comes and eats it, the circle hook can do its job and get the fish in the corner of the mouth so we can release it safely. So 2 types of dingle dangles, the little one with a bit of float, and then there's another one. I just make my own out of nylon. Very simple. I take a bait needle, thread it through the head of the mackerel, and this is for my baits that I don't want to float. It's the baits that I want lying on the sand for those fish that feed on the sand. Okay, so let's start off with a very simple bait on the float dingle. Right, so literally, to get your bait to be balanced, you want to make your bait as big as your dingle. You don't want your dingle to stick out like this behind your bait. That's not natural. It's going to put fish off. So you pick the dingle according to the size bait you want to make. So if this is your dingle, you're going to make a bait this long. Try and fill the dingle with bait. You don't want pieces sticking out. It's not a good thing, and it might just put the fish off, and also it doesn't fly nicely through the air when you pull your bait. So in order to get your distance right on the size of your bait, I always put my dingle on top of my bait like that before I cut it, and that gives me an indication as to where to cut my bait. So the dingle's about that long, cut it there. Alright, so because this is a foamy big dingle, there's no way we can push it through this head. So on this one, I split the head open. So I pull that head open like that, and there is an advantage to this compared to sticking the needle through the head. We've now exposed all the flavor in this bait by doing this. So as soon as we are going to throw this in the ocean, this is going to give away more blood than a normal head that hasn't been cut open, where they just stuck the dingle through. So sometimes this is the way of cutting it open, and especially when the fishing is difficult, really helps a lot. And then from here, it's very, very simple. If you want to make it more aerodynamic, you can literally trim this a bit, cut the corners off like that, and that's just for flying through the air easier. Just round it off like that, take our dingle, put it inside the head, get our hook, put through the dingle and through the top lip of the mackerel. Make sure the dingle's on, and now you just close up the head again, and then we'll cotton it together. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're cotton, and just put it together. So if it's still frozen, just squeeze it together like that so it doesn't become a loose floppy bait when it defrosts. I like to put a bit of cotton over the back end there where the guts are, so those guts don't fall out easily, because that's smell. Okay, finish it off with a half inch over the hook. Okay, so there is a basic mackerel head bait onto a floating dingle dangle. So from here, if you want to add to this is very simple. So you can cast it just like that. If you feel there's not enough flavor on this, you literally just add this onto it. So with the remaining of my bait, the piece of mackerel that I cut, I cut in little slithers like this. And I cut it quite thin so I can bend and ply that mackerel around my bait. Alright, so you got all these little cutlets, and then all you can do is literally just there you go. Just start adding these cutlets to your bait and build up onto your bait. Try and keep it decent. in provinces like the Eastern Cape, the fish aren't too worried about the looks of the bait. There they're more worried about smell. And KZN, your bait's got to look decent. The fish here are fussy. When there's a lot of fish and there's a bit of a smash, they'll eat anything. But generally, when the fish is a bit tough, they would want a half decent bait, something that looks decent and nice and aerodynamic. So try and keep everything neat while you're building these baits. It just helps with that bite. So as you can see, I'm just packing these fillets on like this, squeezing it at the same time to keep everything nice and firm. Hey, how's it? Hello. And you can add onto this as much as you want to the size of bait you really require. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to put more on, and that just gives you an indication of a nice meaty bait on a mackerel head. And on the same bait, like I said, you can always take a bonnie, cut a little bit of bonnie and add it to this bait. Right, so there's our bait. We're done. Clip a sinker in, and that's how we'll cast it. And because of the shape, it will fly through the air nice, and it shouldn't be too much a problem getting some distance. Right, simple or mackerel head bait. Okay. Next little one I'll quickly show you guys is a bait with a dingle that hasn't got a float. I'm just going to use a red eye. This is the bait that I would use currently this time of the early season for us for sandy at the area I fish. The beaches we fish, the sandies is early season, love a little red eye bait. So this is exactly how I would make my sandy bait if I had to go fishing early morning. So I don't want this bait to float. Sandies like to feed off the bottom. You can put a little bit of float if you want to, but in general I like the bait to sit on the sand where those fish are feeding, and it's easy for them to find. So I've got my little nylon dingle I made myself. One side the hook's going to go through, and the other side is my sinker to clip in when I cast. Once again, I measure my size of my bait, that long, cut it off. I want to shape it. And one thing I also like to do with these baits is I like to make my baits like this while the bait's still frozen. As soon as the bait starts going soft, it's hard to shape the bait and get the nice shapes out of it. So this one is already starting to defrost, so it's nice and hot today. And I also don't want half the blood to run out before I begin to put the bait in the water. So it's almost exactly the same as the last bait. A bunch of fillets there, or cutlets I'd call them. Difference with this now is I've got a bait needle, because we're not going to cut the head open. We don't want to float it. Take my bait needle through the mouth of the red eye, down the center of the body, and then we grab our little dingle, this is quite a, okay, I'm going to grab another bait needle. That needle doesn't like that one. Take a bait needle, put it through the center of the head. Comes at on the spine and the bottom. Grab a dingle, pull it through. So there's our dingle. So the purpose of this little needle is just to pull the dingle through the bait to where you require it. And then we take a hook, which I've thrown. Take another trace. Once again, grab the hook through the bottom lip, through the dingle, and then from there through the top lip. And I always just grab the dingle and pull it to make sure I got the dingle after I made that. Okay, from there, cotton. Using some old bait here, so this is definitely not the nicest red eye in the world, but this is an example of what the bait should look like. Show that little loop sticking out nice in the middle, and then from here, once again, we just start adding the cutlets. And notice that as I make the bait, I constantly shape it because I want this bait, when it flies through the air, to fly in a straight line. I don't want it to sort of, because it's not shaped well, fly not straight, and then you're going to lose distance in your car. So continuously shape it to get a nice rugby ball or soccer ball shape out of it. Right, and that's it. That's basically a little red-eye bait with the dangle through the head. Very simple, very easy to build. And you can, if you want to add more meat to it, once again you can, to build the bait bigger. You can add a bit of bonnet to it, you can add a bit of chocolate to it. There's many ways, but this is just basic. And in general conditions, you've got a nice fresh red-eye, this will catch your fish. Definitely catch all your brown skates. Honeycombs, sandies. Diamonds doesn't specifically like red-eye, they prefer a mackerel. But if it's a small diamond gun, it will get as well. Okay. Any questions on this?
But how picture this again, and what sort of size are you going for if you're going for flats? Small, medium?
You mean on
Size wise?
the hooks and the lingo? Can you explain this as well? Okay, so I think on the camera sometimes it's difficult to judge the size of this bait. So, okay, let me just rephrase. So this specific red-eye bait will be a bait where I target anything from a 5 to 8 kilo brown up until, like, say, a 40 kilo sand. That's what we sort of catch on this. So on this size, my dingle is exactly 8 centimeters long. So, and the hook I use is a 5.0 or 6.0 size hook. So that just gives you perspective on this size of hook and trace I'm using. When it comes to my diamond bait, the one I showed earlier with a mackerel head, it'll be a 10 centimeter dingle and an 8 to 10.0 size hook. So it's a nice bulky meat, piece of meat. And once again, the reason for this being so small is obviously we're not targeting giant fish. On our coastline, on this you can come to catch up to a 40 kilo fish, but also a 5 kilo fish. So there's not many fish, so you try and catch what there is. And the second reason is that because you're fishing light and smaller, you're getting the distance to get to the fish. Good, yeah. Right, so we've got Ben here, one of our local anglers here in the Durban area. Very good angler, he fishes a lot and is in tune with the fishing at the moment because he fishes so much. And Ben's going to show you guys two, I'd say, a bit more advanced ways of fishing, but something that's working very well currently. And the base he's going to show you, the one specific bait, is one of those bases when things are very tough and you're back and you get a bite. Where this specific bait can really get you a bite. So yeah, Ben, carry on and show us what you can do.
Yeah, thanks, Rudolph. So yeah, Rudolph went through basically most of the traces we use. It's very similar, guys. So basically FMJ is your standard thing. Whether you're going mono, whether you're going a bite on it, or whether you're just going straight cable. So the only difference that I would do from what Rudolph does is normally fish a much more finesse cable. So like you said earlier, a 7x7. So as you can see, guys, I'm wrapping the cable. So that'll tell you how soft it is. Anything between a 90 to 100 pound. So generally I will use this between the honeycombs, bigger sandies, honeycombs, and diamonds. So basically more of a bigger flatfish. That's my go-to. So with length, it obviously varies. It's what you preference, what you prefer. My length is normally 2 meters. So my trace is basically a 2 meter span, 1.8 to 2 meter span. But that can be obviously what you're comfortable throwing with. Exactly what Rudolph does. Guys do use crimps here instead of a stopper knot. I just use mono stopper knots. There's not much of a difference. If you're using the correct crimping tool, you won't have a problem. So the other thing that's been walking around, so in KZN at the moment we have a lot of peckers in the water, because the water is really clean. So what I have started to do is start fishing a natural bait, whole bait. So I'm basically throwing the whole mackerel or whole red eye. And the only difference on the trace is I'm now fishing a double circle. Yes, it's a circle hook trace, but it's not a full-on circle. It's basically a little bit, the shape is way off completely to a normal circle. So as you can see here, this is a circle hook, and this is what we call a Mutsu Light in the owner brand. So you can guys see the difference on that. So this allows you to strike a fish, and it just sits better on the bait that we're going to show today. So with this trace, I'm mainly targeting grays, but we have caught other fish on it, sandies and stuff. So it's just a little bite trace, a double circle hook. So the distance between this and my front hook is basically measured on the bait. So this is a red eye, which is a lot smaller than what I will normally throw as a whole bait. But you can see the idea is for the hook to sit on the head there and the other one to sit in the body. We'll show you on the exact mackerel now. So it's a little small bite trace, probably what's that, about 20 centimeters or so, leading to a 1.2 mil mono. I got about 6 to 8 centimeters in between there before I tie my stopper knot. I don't like my beads to sit on that. It's just creating a weaker spot on my knot there. So I always like to put a stopper knot higher up just to prevent any hitting on that there. And then obviously just a normal swivel that way you sink a bead, swivel and a bead. So that is the trace, very basic, normal FMJ style trace. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the bait on this, and then we'll come back to another.
And on that, just a question on that. What species of fish have been catching this summer on that specific style of fishing?
This specific size of fish this summer, I got from blue rays to a sandy, 2 meter sandy, what is it, 2.13 sandy, grays up to 10 to 15 kilos. I got a hammer of 10 to 15 kilos, blue rays up to 18, 20 kilos. Everything is feeding on it because it's basically a natural bait.
Yes.
It's something that they'll feed on in the water, so it's very, very similar to having a bait that just died and fell on the floor.
Yeah.
Scavengers.
And because there's so many pickers of the small little
so
fish,
it's
it lasts longer. Yeah.
It's technically more of a pecker-proof bait.
Yeah, okay.
So, just gonna grab, guys, the bait is not in condition because we're using it for bait demonstration. So generally I would look for a mackerel, it's a bit small. That's the size mackerel that I would look for. Okay. So this is a size mackerel that I like to throw a hole. As you can see, the head is not too big. So basically on the flatfish, they're going to come and feed from there first. And then on the grays, for some reason, they like to grab the tail part first, always. And when I'm throwing a whole bait, I always want it to be frozen. So this is defrosted a bit. But if you guys see here, a frozen bait will always float a little while before it sinks. And sometimes with the gray, you'll watch it and then now you start to sink. After it starts to defrost completely, it'll start to sink. So with the gray, they generally like to feed on mid water, and then every now and then they'll feed from the floor. So that's why I always like to throw a whole bait frozen. Let it be on top first for a chance for a gray, and then when it does sink, obviously the flatfish would grab it. So that's the reason why I always throw a whole bait frozen. Okay, so it's very simple, no dangle needed, very quick bait. So I use this a lot in competition, one of my tricks. So basically my front hook, as you guys can see there, and if you look at the mackerel, it has like almost like a V here. And this has a lot of oil. So Rudolph, I'm not too sure if you did it where you pop the oil on the head. Yeah, so generally what we do is take a knife here, and when we're doing our cutlet bait with the dangle, we'll just pop that there, which gives out a more oil scent and stuff on it. So when we're doing a bait like what Rudolph showed earlier, you can just pop that there. This gives out a little bit more scent. But now I'm going to use that as an indicator of where to put my hook. So generally, I'll just take my 6/0. Sorry guys, this is a 6/0, a double 6/0 hook. You can vary your sizes, but every hook brand changes on sizes. So for me, a 6/0 works perfectly well. If you're using a Berkeley owner fusion hook, Berkeley fusion hook, I'll go between an 8/0 and a 7/0. So hook sizes vary. So all I'm going to do here is take my 6/0, put it through that V spot there, make sure it penetrates right through, bring it out at where the clear part or yellowish part, just before the lip. That way it'll come out. And then I'll turn it, pushing it just past the lip. And then my second hook, I want it to sit just before the tail. and then I'll just take that and shove it down there. So with this extra cable here, obviously not every mackerel is going to be the same size. So if you do end up with a bit of extra cable left, all I do is just lie it there on the side, and that should be fine. And then now we're just going to cotton it up. So with this specific bait, make sure you're using a thick latex cotton, because you want to put a lot of cotton on your top hook here, so it stops it from turning into the bait. So what I'm going to do here is just going to cotton the bottom, and then I'll show you how I stop it from actually turning side to side. So you guys saw the play now, right? So as I get here, my actual knot, and this is the main reason why I snell the hook there. So you can see where that wire knot is there. I'm going to add a lot of cotton on that to actually keep the hook stable. So I'm going to put quite a bit of cotton on that. So that just allows the hook stops the hook from turning. Just going to get this cotton up here, so it's going to keep on breaking. And then just behind the ring of the hook, I'm just going to add a little bit more. Sorry guys, so cotton is... Yeah, so I'm just going to cotton that all the way down. So you can, if you want, if there is not a lot of peckers and you want to throw a whole bait, you can take a scissors and trim out the gill plates on the side, just to leave out more scent, or release more scent faster. But generally I throw it just as is. So this specific bait, we haven't hook raggies with it, but obviously our traces, it wasn't beefed up enough to land it, but we did get ID confirmation of them. So all I did there was wrap it, put a lot of cotton on where my front hook, where my snell on my front hook is, followed through with cottoning it. But now when I get to my second hook, let's call it our carrier hook, there's another snell knot there, and I'm going to add more cotton there just to stabilize the bait there. Okay, so I'll put very lightly there, and then come to my knot there, and then just put a lot of cotton there. As you saw, when it comes to the end where they got the knots, I always double my cotton to make it a little bit more thicker. And then following right down the bait, when I get to the tail part, I just squeeze the tip of the tail so it goes flat. So that just allows it not to spin in the water too much. And then I do put quite a bit of cotton at the end. It's not a very nice bait to throw. It does spin in the air a bit, but it's a very, very natural looking bait and works very well, pecker proof as well. So this is my whole mackerel bait that I will generally throw, and been working very, very well on our coast at the moment.
And I presume you're not clipping this bait at all?
So I do clip it. So when I'm clipping it, I clip it on my front hook there.
Okay.
So it's still a little bit, if you want to call it aerodynamic, it is a little bit, not really, but it does get good distance.
Yes.
We actually measured this, and this bait falls about 20 meters shorter than your normal cutlet bait. It's not bad. Obviously, when I'm throwing baits like this now, I look for the shorter banks so that I can get it over. Or generally, I love fishing this bait off points. And areas that where bait balls are normally formed, like in our area, Scottsboro, a lot of bait forms there. And then when the fish feed on it, you do get scraps lying around. So that's what we try to.
And this hook is secure enough for it not to pull out from.
No, it won't.
Yeah.
You can tug on this.
You can see that it's the head is quite. Yeah.
I'm shaking the bait.
Yeah.
So you can see that's not gonna come. So what happens here is, as I showed you in the bucket, this bait will float around, just move around with the current, sucking around, and then 90% of my grays just come and grab there. So 90% of the grays that actually hooked and landed was on that back hook. And then the front hook there is always for a sandy or for a blue or whatever's coming around, flatfish to come and grab it. Works well because you can also still get an edible on it. Cob would still feed on it. Dan season now guys, but shad would also feed on it. A lot of other species would feed on it because it's a natural bait. So you can, like when the hammers was on our coast, the hammers have moved off now, unfortunately, but they will turn, I think, when the water come back was. Do you have a bit of foam? I have in the bottom of my bag there. Just for a hard polystyrene foam.
Small piece.
Yeah, just a small piece. Thanks. So basically, what I also do is, like when the hammers are around, just a bit of high density foam. Not a very big piece, just to assist with the float. I just cut 2 strips like this, and then I'll add this to the belly. So just on either side of the belly, I'll put it on there, I know I'm making the bait more not aerodynamic, but I'm fishing this bait off a point where I don't need to get a lot of distance. So all I do is add it on the belly there, just to add the bait to float up a little bit more, and that's if I want to target a hammer, which loves old bait and shiny things. So anything shiny in the water, hammers love to grab. So I'll add a bit of foam there, and not a lot of caution on it, because once a fish bite that, it's gonna fall off. That's basically sacrifice. So that's gonna allow the bait to float even more. So as you saw, the bait sunk before, just add in the 2 smaller pieces of foam. Now the bait is floating. So that's my whole bait that I will throw for off a point for a gray, a sandy, a brown, a blue, when the peckers are completely off gale and you can't hold a cutlet bait like what Rudolph showed you. So the problem with the cutlet baits is they disperse a lot of scent fast, and that obviously causes smaller fish. So the next bait I want to show you guys is something we use a lot at national level, and we call it the kebab. So this bait here, it doesn't work off a dangle, it doesn't work off anything. It's not a bait that you're going to get a lot of distance off, but it's a bait that disperses scent very fast. So if you're in a crowd and you want, as I'm saying, this is a bait that I would generally throw if I'm really struggling for a bite. There's not much peckers around and the bank is really close, anything between 60 to 80 meters. Generally I throw this on a double hook trace. If I want to fish a fleshier bait, even on reef, if I want to fish for a rockard or any of like a potato bass rockard, stumpies also like it. So anything that feeds off fleshier bait, I will do that. So basically, I will use this bait on a 6-0 to anything between a 6-0 and an 8-0. You can use it on a double hook trace, you can use it on an FMJ trace. It's a very fast bait that disperses out very fast, and it actually leaves out sentiments. I'll show you now as it is. So generally I do this with either sardine or red eye, not so much mackerel. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the flap. So I'm just going to cut out basically anything that doesn't have scent. So you can see there's basically no scent in here. Let me just open this here, guys. There's basically nothing left in here. Yes, you can scrape out the gills and that and add this to the bait, but 90% is in there. So depending on how big I want to make my bait, is how big of a block I'm going to cut. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to make it too big. You can actually make it the whole red eye or half a red eye. In competition, we don't get a lot of bait when you're fishing nationals. We basically get like a kilo of sardine, and in those areas there and up the Cape, sardine works very well. So off my sardine, to make it last longer throughout the tournament, I actually cut my sardine into 3 baits. Okay, so basically all you're going to need here is a chuck hammer. Just be careful, guys. And you're going to pulp this. You're going to turn this into almost snot or basically nothing. You're going to completely mash it. So if this red eye was a lot fresher, I did mention that we're using old bait here just for bait demonstration. So what you can do here is just smash it, and then if you want, you can also just pull out the bone. So a lot of guys don't realize this, but that center bone, especially on a mullet, has a lot of scent on it, even on a red eye. So if I just smash the center bone along, try and get off all this, all the guts out, so you guys can actually see how much blood comes out from that. Just by smashing that center bone, look at the blood trail that came out from that. So all I'm going to do now is scoop all of this up, and I'm going to turn it into a ball in my hand. It's a very messy bait, guys. And basically this bait is held on by cotton. So thick to heavy duty latex cotton works well. And all I'm going to do is start off wrapping it around my fingers and around. So basically now all I'm doing is holding the bait together by the cotton and shaping it as well. So as I'm going around, I'm turning direction of the cotton just to get the shape that I want. So basically I want this in a ball. This is going to allow me to throw the bait further. So the more So you guys know with latex cotton, as it gets into water, it tightens on the bait. So I'm going to carry on shaping this until it gets into a perfect ball. You can use your hand and just carry on smashing it. Okay, so I'm not going to add a lot of cotton. Generally, I will go a lot longer. The beauty thing about this bait is you can make 5 or 6 kebabs and use a bait container and throw it in and walk around fishing bank to bank. Just putting a kebab on and throwing it onto the banks and then carrying on. So it's a very fast bait. Okay, so that's all it is. It's basically a ball. Alright, so we made the ball with the cotton that we already smashed. And then all I'm going to do here is take my circle hook. Remember guys, I didn't put a lot of cotton here, but I would have put a lot more. And I just put it through the bait, making sure it's proud. But with this bait, you don't need to worry too much about it covering the hook and stuff. If you're fishing a smaller hook, if it does cover, it's soft. So, but even though that I put less cotton here, you can see that. That's indented in my hand already. So you can see how much force. You're not going to pull that out. You're not going to pull that out. But okay, I smashed the bait a bit, but I just want to show you guys what it does here. So look at the scent trail that goes around. It just keep on. Look at all the fragments that comes out of it. It just keep on giving out smell over and over. And because it's a soft bait, the flatfish don't mind. When they grab it, they don't grab and leave. They will grab and they'll come to it straight away. So it's a very, very nice bait to use. Yes, it does give out scent fast, so you have to constantly change the bait. But it's a very good bait when peckers are not wild and you want to get a bite fast. It works extremely well for lessers. So the guys that are in the Cape area, one of my favorite baits to use for those big lessers. So they get the grey spot lessers there that go up to like 1.3, 1.4. What is the biggest lesser that you've seen there, Rudolph? In Cape, about 1.5.
Yeah.
Those are lessers.
Yeah, you get less up to 5 kilos.
5 kilos, yeah. So you get some massive. I think my biggest day is like 1.2 meters.
Yeah.
And that's a lesser guy, not a sandy. So we're not lucky enough and fortunate enough to get that here. But this exact same bait, I will throw it here for a Blu-ray. Carrie has got a lot of Blu-rays on this bait here recently. Look, if you really want to put a dangle in it and chuck it further, you can obviously. Let me see if I can save this bait. Just cut it off. So you can basically use your a small dangle and then Rudolph, do you have a bait needle here?
Yeah, in the box.
In the box. So you can actually use your bait needle. The only difference I'm going to do is push that through the kebab, put my dangle through on the hook, pull it through, and then when I'm putting it on my hook, I'll put it through a flesh, a little bit of the cotton and flesh, bring it through into the loop, and then I will turn it into the bait again. And then when I'm cottoning it, obviously guys, this kebab wasn't made for this dangle. If I did make it, I would make it exactly to the size of the dangle. I would then take a bit of cotton and then lock it onto the bait again. So if I want to add a bit of distance to it, you can still do that. So remember, Rudolph was speaking about not covering the hook and making sure the hook is proud. You can just add a lot of cotton down there that would actually force the bait to go more down, the kebab to go more down. And then let me just make it look a little bit pretty for you guys. So even if you do make a bait short and you want to add on stuff, you can just do that. And then you can just carry on packing onto it and cottoning it. So basically this bait is held on by cotton. It's a mush bait. Blu-rays would absolutely love this because Blu-rays love mush. They love soft bait. So as you can see, you just...
And even that bone is smashed as well.
That bone is smashed as well.
Nothing sharp, pokey, nothing.
Nothing to stop them from
feeding
on the bite and committing to the bait. So even if you wanted to use it on a dangle, you can still make it onto a dangle and then just lock it as that. So this is a complete mush bait. So if you want to clip it now and throw it further, you can. So this is completely soft. I'm just going to press it so you can see. That is completely soft. There is nothing hard in that.
And it'll constantly chum in the water.
It'll constantly give out a scent.
Come off,
Yeah.
the scent will come out from fishing for, yeah.
So that is a good bait to use when the bite is scarce and there's a lot of not a lot of peckers in the water. Yeah. Any questions, guys?
No.
It's very so with non-head fishing. For me personally, the one shape of bait basically covers all flatfish, if I'm right in saying that. So if I'm targeting a bigger flatfish like a honeycomb, when I say bigger honeycombs like 80, 100 kilos, and if I'm using a bonny head, I'll cut the bait exactly like how Rudolph made it. It's just a lot bigger bait and a lot more scent. So for me, it's not about so much about the shape, it's about the scent that it gives out. So I will spend more time cutting out sardine or cutting out mackerel tummies and bellies and stuff, and adding it to the bait to add out scent. Adding chokka guts to your bait, things like that just attract the scent, attract the fish faster to your bait. So the more scent, the faster the bite. So I think that is everything that you need to know to start off non-net fishing.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Ken.
No problem.
Okay, so now I'd like to introduce you guys to Carrie. Carrie's been better off, I'd say. I think so. Lately, I've been watching them fish, and I think she's been actually kicking Ben's ass out there.
2 meter sandy with 1 kilo Blu-rays.
But Carrie's really climbing the ranks quickly in the ladies fishing fraternity, catching a lot of fish, doing well, spending lots of hours next to the water. So I want to give Carrie the opportunity to show us one of her basic combo baits that she's been very successful with this winter and heading into the summer. And yeah, this is also something that people out there can learn and do because it's been working well for you.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is a combo bait that I've been using lately that's been working on our coast. So it's basically a mackerel and a red eye combo. So it's a dangle bait. I'm going to measure out my mackerel because we're going to use the head on the mackerel. So what I normally do is place my dangle on the mouth there and I measure it to the end. So let's do that. And then I'm going to cut it, if you see here where the crimp is, it's just going to be a little behind there. So it's just behind the gill plates. It's not a very big bait, but it's been catching me all my lures lately. It's been working. Just gonna shape it up a little bit. Put the dangle in.
I think that bait needle, yeah?
Yeah, I
Sounds
think
better.
this
That one's
one
too
is-
thick.
One doesn't want to go through. Okay,
Yeah.
it's much better.
Yeah.
Just pull that through. Okay. So next is I'm gonna hook this onto my trace. So what I usually do is on the bottom lip, goes in through the bottom lip and then through the little ring of the dangle there, and then goes up on the top lip. So like that, and then your bait is secure. And now we're gonna cotton it up. So to me, I like to use quite a bit of cotton on my bait so it stays secure. So normally what I do is I like to put quite a bit of bait around the mouth so that stays in place.
I mean, the cotton pulls the nice and
Close.
firmly
Yes.
against the
So
so it
it
doesn't slide
stays.
off. Yeah.
And then once I cotton it a bit around, then I try to lock it in the place that I want it to. So just go on either side there. And just one more time there. And then just give it a lock. Okay, so that one's there, that's my head. And then now I'm going to take my red eye. So normally some people like to use the cutlets. What I like to do is use 2 pieces of fillets. So from the tail, you just fillet it off to the bone, just making sure it's the size of the head of the mackerel. That's one. Let's cut another piece there. Okay, so let's cut a little soft line through there just so it molds properly. Okay.
So you come up at an angle for a specific reason, so it shapes nicely with the bottom of the bait.
Shapes with the bait. So if you see the narrower part now that we cut from the tail, I place it on the side, on the top there. So that goes round like that. So now when I'm cottoning, you can see that it folds around the bait.
And the bottom shape's nice and it closes up at
Yes.
the bottom as well.
I like to use this bait because the head is a bit firm at the bottom and then it's a bit of a mushy bait on top. So that one's there, and then I turn it over and do the same thing. So that covers it. Comes off like a little ball. Just make sure when you're cottoning it, your little dangle's not covered. So just want to lock these cutlets in place. And then my little secret that I've been doing is when I'm done with this, go back to my red eye and I like to cut off the belly. I know it's wasting a little bit of bait, but it's been working for me. So I just take out all those guts and I chop it in half, so I got 2 pieces. Just open up that a bit, just make it a bit mush, and then make it a bit mush there. And then the bigger piece, if you look at the hook now, on the shank side of the hook, place that on there, give it a bit of cotton. And put that little piece down on there. So lock it in place. Okay, and that's my versatile bait that's been working for me a lot on our coast lately.
Very nice, small,
And the smell,
well shaped, eh?
You shaped it well. There's a lot of smell, a lot of flavor. Very nice.
So
actually.
when
Very
it goes
nice.
in, the guts will give off all the scent.
Yeah.
You still got the little fillets there on the side. So even if there's peckers, they're just gonna
And
eat.
it'll throw well as well, eh?
It does.
Very nice to simple.
Awesome. I think that page is way shaped better than Rudolph.
I'm getting there slowly.
Very nice. Can I clip a sinker on it and just show them?
This is single on the side there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that now. It was somewhere.
Where's the sinker? It's not here.
Chicken or water.
Yeah, it's in the water. Okay. So when you're ready to throw, clip your sinker on. This goes in. you're ready.
Awesome.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's a lot more of these that's going to take place. We did make some plans now. Rudolph wants to do this quite often, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoy the bait demos, try it out. Also let us know what fish you're getting on it, and also what baits you want to see, what trace demos. Make mention of it and we'll get it done for you. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and tight lines. Yeah guys, not over. Done with the event. Now we're hungry. Time to eat. So we went on to Southside food box. Waiting for our food now. 75 bucks. Tastes damn good.
Come on.